Number 6. Point 6 isn't referring to PM10. Have I read that wrong?
Well, 2.5, which is within the PM10 measurement. But the point that was, the stats that were just read out related to what are said to be deaths or illnesses and hospital admissions related to smoke from wood burners.
But it says, should national guidelines be prepared, the Council considers it important that the air plan be reviewed to reflect the guidelines.
No, the sentence above says it appears in Christchurch particularly...
Yeah, no, I know what it says,
right.
but then it says, should national guidelines be prepared? We recognise the flexibility in adapting to increasing technical understanding of the sources and impacts of contaminants. For example, at present, there are no national guidelines for PM 2.5, although it is increasingly recognised as a significant health issue. It appears in Christchurch, particularly during winter, etc., etc.
Yeah,
should the national guidelines be prepared, the Council considers it important that the air plan be reviewed to reflect the guidelines.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm questioning the stats and the number of deaths and admissions that are put down.
But you just said, sorry, it just says, should the national guidelines be prepared? We're not submitting on this. We're just saying that should national guidelines be prepared for this? Am I reading it wrong?
No, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm sorry, I don't get your point.
You're referring to the stat that's referred to in item 6 as being out of date, but it's not submitting on the air quality plan as it is. It's just simply highlighting that if there were to be national guidelines prepared for PM 2.5, then we would have to, that the air plan would have to be reviewed. That's all number 6 is saying.
Yeah, but it's also saying that the main source of wood combustion...
No, it says it appears in Christchurch that the main source is wood combustion. That's for PM 2.5. Yeah. And it's saying that if national guidelines are prepared, I mean, it's just simply saying that if national guidelines are prepared, the air plan would have to be reviewed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still not following what your argument is, but that's obviously my fault. No, I'm just saying that a lot of the information that the national standards are based on out-of-date statistics.
But they're national standards. So, look, let's work out how we can resolve this. So, there's an amendment in your name that we add the words vehicle emissions to number 2.
That's really not something we can do, and that's been addressed by staff.
Yep. So you're quite comfortable with not proceeding with that.
Yep.
But at item 3, we've had council advice that you're very comfortable with that. So
that inclusion, yes.
So we can accept that as included in the submission. But it's item 5, the additions there, and staff don't recommend that we add those words. Is that right?
No, that's fine. That's the last part of item 5 there. The Council encouraged Environment Canterbury to look for opportunities. That's pretty much a rewrite of what we had there originally. It's just clarifies.
Can I just comment on that though? I think that where you said it was earlier relates to interest-free loans and subsidy. And I think that that's slightly problematic in this issue as far as just extending deadlines if at all possible. I don't know about other people who have been struggling with insurance companies and so forth, but if you've suddenly got to fill in 1 million forms and show your income and so forth, I think you just walk away from it. But I mean, I'm happy to combine the two if people don't like the rewrite of that, but I do think that that's much clearer and stronger, and I think we need to be in this submission.
But I don't think that we're asking ECAN... Well, your amendment asks ECAN to look for opportunities to extend deadlines related to emission limit, which I don't think we can do. Well, I mean, we can put it up as an amendment.
Straightening it. The national environmental standards are set by legislation, is that right?
Well, under the Resource Management Act,
okay.
Madam
the
Chair,
central government.
We could just add a couple of words to that. So the Council encourages Environment Canterbury to look for opportunities to extend deadlines to the extent that it's able to within the National Environmental Standard.
To the extent that it's able to.
Yeah.
And that might relate to enforcement as well, wouldn't it?
I think enforcement would be a key part of that, as Peter's right.
Yeah.
But I think it's not simply around extending deadlines, it's around looking to options to take a proactive, be responsive to the circumstances of the community within the framework that the NES sets for it.
Yep.
Perhaps it's some wording to that effect that we need to look at.
Yeah. Right. So do we want to write the wording here and now, or are people comfortable with getting the wording sorted out afterwards by agreement? So maybe Ali and Phil sign it off? Well, if Ali and Phil agree, then...
Do it now.
Do it now?
We're nearly there.
Okay.
I mean,
well, I liked what Mike was saying.
Yeah,
So
me too.
the council encourages Environment Canterbury to be responsive to the circumstances of the community affected by the ongoing impacts of the 2010-2011 Canterbury earthquakes. Do you want all of the rest of that sentence the way it is?
I'm happy to get as much of that in as possible.
Yeah, well, just keep writing the sentence as it is in the document. So, and you say that to the extent that it is, and to the extent that it is able to extend deadlines relating to emission limits. Is that?
Yes.
Yep. And to the extent that it is able to extend deadlines relating to emission limits. Oh, to the extent that it is able to under the NES. Yeah.
it would be good to acknowledge that ECAN has actually been quite proactive in this area too.
They have actually.
And we have noted that in the subsidies that they're off. Well, we have noted that we would request that they provide subsidies, but they are being proactive, and particularly with that new ultra low emission burner that's been through now.
Yeah, I mean,
really
the point is that the ultra low burner did not exist before the earthquakes. And it was really only the creation of the amendment to the rule around the use of no low emission burners that actually meant they became commercially viable. I think the price will go down, but I think that it is important that people have the option of, get subsidised to get them into their homes. Yeah, Phil.
Look, I think it's important that, I think the staff referred to the fact that for no fewer than five occasions, ECAN, the Commissioner and staff have come to the ITI committee and given us presentations around this issue. It is complex. Part of that was very early on. We said, look, we would really like you to make sure that, in fact, any program that is available in the city, that you work in conjunction with them and develop other partnerships. They certainly have done that. And there's no question. And they have worked with the agencies well, including, for example, with our staff. So I think acknowledgement should be given to the constructive way that things have been done within these standards, as Pauline has indicated.
Well, I think that, Para 3, while the Council supports Environment Canterbury's encouragement for development, etc., is well aware of the significant cost. I mean, maybe before that sentence, you want a sentence that says, sort of congratulates Environment Canterbury for the cooperative approach that they've taken under, challenging circumstances. I mean, that might satisfy people. Yep. Yeah, so it's basically insert at the beginning of the paragraph. The Council congratulates Environment Canterbury for its cooperative approach. Cooperative and proactive approach. To addressing what are very challenging issues. Yeah, in relation to personal, individual homes but the wider air quality issue, because I think it is public health versus personal health, and that isn't always easy. Well, in relation to heating individual homes and the wider public health issues around air quality, because they are the two issues. All right, so are you happy to move that now?
I wanted to ask about the non-regulatory programs that's on page, sorry, I'm working off my document, but it's under number 1, introduction still. I haven't got the page. It's got non-regulatory programs on the left-hand side. No. Page 78 at the bottom. The council believes that the Goodwood Merchant program contributes significantly to improved air quality. Now, I've heard the same from an anecdotal perspective. Do we not have any evidence there? It just seems a little weak to say believes.
We don't have any technical evidence as such. I'm sure that is available, but I think we could reword that to say the council supports the Goodwood Merchant program as it contributes significantly.
Thank you, that's much better.
To improved air quality.
Yep, great.
Just make that change. Yep. It doesn't need to be seen as an amendment. Yep.
Working with key partners on the next page. Could you just explain what that first sentence means? The council supports the planned discussion of working with the territorial authorities. I assume there's a typo in there.
I'll hand over to Janine for this. No, it's not a typo, but I think once we explain it, we might be able to reword it.
I think it needs rewording. Basically, the sentence, the council supports the plans discussions of working with territorial authorities. This is particularly in relation to how land use planning might be undertaken. That might help with issues through district plans, for example, and it also might be non-regulatory mechanisms that us as the council might be able to undertake to also help with air quality issues and so forth.
So the council supports discussions with territorial authorities around various plans. Would that work? Is that
around
what you mean?
Land use planning maybe and non-regulatory mechanisms.
Right. So if we could make that change, please, because I thought that was not very clear at all. Number 5, objectives. Something that I think is not very clear in the submission.
Do we have to type all these down?
No.
No?
No, don't have to.
Other than the ones that have been written already, recorded, we've got those comments recorded here.
So if you can you just make a note of that last one that you said, because thank you.
Yep.
Objectives. I don't think we reiterate enough the issue around affordability, because basically in 2016, when low emitting burners, we are now on page
9 of
83 and 9 of mine, all of part 5 of the plan. My suggestion is that because the objectives as outlined in the plan, you'll see off to the right I've listed them. 5.6 says developments in innovation and technology are enabled to provide solutions to air quality issues. You can see from my notes there, I think affordability and choice is really important. Staff are accepting of that.
I've got a tick next to it on my copy, I think we can make that change.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I'm pretty sure that is it.
Yep.
Good work.
Yes.
I thought this was going to be highly complex and that we would end up having to refer it back to the submissions panel. I'm very delighted. So, so you want to move this, Sally?
Yep.
And it would like to be seconded by Phil Clearwater. So the debate now, Yanni.
Thanks. I think this is a really important issue facing our city, and I know firsthand as someone who's suffered from asthma just how important it is to clean up the air quality, and I can, in my lifetime, in the last 2 decades, can see a real improvement in terms of air quality as someone who, suffered from asthma often and now not so much, and you can just feel it in winter. But I also know that damp, cold homes are also a huge contributor to health problems in our city. And I do think we need to really think about the balance. I encourage every councillor to read the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment's report. It is outstanding. It actually makes a number of very salient points, and I think we should, and I appreciate you don't want us to do it today, but I'm happy to do a notice of motion or get a report on the next council agenda to actively progress the recommendations that she's put forward to government, because I think as a city we can play a leadership role in terms of air quality and the health impact that it has. Currently, the current framework is not working, in my view. It is measuring something that doesn't make any sense when you read this report, and although we've seen some improvement, I think there's a lot smarter and cleverer ways to actually address the concerns. And I just finished with the WHO, the World Health Organization, which states standards for particular matter should be set to achieve the lowest concentrations possible in the context of local constraints, capabilities, and public health priorities. And that's really, I think, really important. And the Commissioner goes on to say it would be counterproductive to have actions that reduce emissions from wood burners that result in more cold, damp houses. And unfortunately in our city, we still have a number of people waiting for their earthquake repairs who are living in damp, cold, leaky buildings, who in some cases, even when they get the repairs, are still going to be living in damp and cold buildings because there's been a real lack of progress addressing that issue. So I think we need to be really proactive in this space. I think there are other solutions than simply banning modern, efficient wood burners that are currently on the market. I think it's a small step to address the air quality that has much further reaching consequences. If you think of places like Woolston and St Albans, Woolston I know well, there are many other chemicals and things going into the air in that area that need to have a lot greater monitoring and understanding rather than just banning the simple, easy solution of banning the modern wood burners, which I don't think addresses the real health issue. So I'll support this, but I do signal that we need to do more work around this area.
Ellie.
Thank you. Clean air is more than just important, but I think what constitutes clean air is also just as important. What I've found frustrating about this process, and I thank the staff for their patience with me, because there are rules and regulations that have to be adhered to that I find quite illogical and frustrating. However, that doesn't change the fact that we have to adhere to them. Currently, the National Environment Standards, I believe, should take cognizance of regional issues, including the cold in Christchurch versus, for example, the cold in Auckland. And I think that the views for the from the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, Dr. Jan Wright, or indeed the Association for Independent Air, with regards to World Health Organisation guidelines, should be listened to and addressed. And again, that's part of the frustration. There are people for whom heat pumps do not work, whether it is because of a cost, elderly people on fixed incomes, the fact that they blow dust around and affect people with asthma. And solid fuel burners are extremely short as far as choice goes, with pellet burners requiring electricity, and in fact the ultra-low emission burner that will heat the bigger area than the smaller one on the market, requiring power after 4 days. So there are no solid fuel burners on the market at the moment that will run without electricity. Government figures show that the average electricity unit price rose from about 14.6 cents a unit in 2002 to 27.6 cents a unit in 2014. That's a gain of almost 90% and almost 3 times faster than general inflation. We need to address this and make people... We know more than many others the importance of resilience and being able to operate your heating, for example, without a reliance on electricity. I support the Council's submission that encourages clean air in our city, but I am disappointed at what I see as overly onerous and unnecessary rules related to the National Environment Standards. and I really do support my colleagues in doing everything they can to raise the issue at a central government level so that our people have more choice and are not affected by the costs that putting heat pumps in does cause for some people. We've stats related to hospital admissions and GP visits for wood burner related illnesses. However, I have tried for the last 2 weeks to get stats related to GP or hospital admissions related to bronchial illnesses resulting from cold and damp homes, and I cannot get them. That information is not available. Thank you for your patience with me on this. This is something I feel passionate about, and I think we need to look at it further from a national environmental standards position.
Great. Thank you. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you to the submissions panel, and thank you, Ali, for putting in the hard yards, and thank you to the staff, because I know that you've really helped make this a good process. So thank you. Right. The next item on the agenda